You check your bank account and there's $11,000 sitting there. Feels amazing, right? Except, you have no idea how much of that is actually yours. You don't know what's owed to the IRS. You don't know what's owed to your business card. You don't know if next month brings another $11,000 or a big fat zero. That's not a business. That's a very stressful hobby with invoices. If you're a freelancer, a contractor, or you run a small service-based business, and you're the one sending the invoices, chasing the payments, and filing your own taxes, this video is for you. Not the 9 to 5 crowd. Not the side hustle for fun crowd. You, the person whose income depends entirely on what you bill this month. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly which of 5 silent habits are keeping your freelance work stuck in hobby mode, and more importantly, the specific fix for each one. This isn't about hustling harder or landing bigger clients. This is about finally running your business like it's actually a business, so you get to feel something you probably haven't felt in a while. Calm. Control. The kind of freedom where money stops being a source of dread. Here's the thing nobody tells you when you go freelance or start your own small business. Nobody hands you an instruction manual. You didn't get onboarded. There was no HR department walking you through direct deposit, tax withholding, or a 401k match. One day you were an employee with a predictable paycheck, and the next day you were on your own. Guessing at taxes. Watching your income swing from a great $9,000 month to a terrifying $1,200 month with zero warning. And so a lot of freelancers, smart, talented, hardworking people, end up running their business the same way they'd run a hobby. Money comes in, money goes out, and there's no real system underneath it. No separation between business money and my money. No plan for taxes until the tax bill shows up and knocks the wind out of you. No cushion for the slow months. No structure at all, just vibes and adrenaline. The result? You're working incredibly hard, you might even be making decent money, and you still feel financially anxious all the time. That gap between how much you're earning and how safe you feel is exactly what we're closing today. Let's get into the 5 signs. Here's the tell. A client pays you $3,000 for a project. That money hits your account, and from that moment, it's just your money. You use it for groceries. You use it for your business software subscription. You use it to finally book that dentist appointment you've been putting off. There's no line between this is business revenue and this is my personal paycheck. It all lives in one pot, and you spend from that pot whenever something needs paying. This is the single biggest tell that separates a hobby from a business, and here's why. A real business pays its owner a wage. It doesn't just hand over whatever's sitting in the account. When you skip that step, 3 bad things happen at once. First, you lose visibility. You genuinely don't know if your business is profitable, because you never separated money the business made from money you took out. You could be operating at a loss and not even realize it, because there's always just enough cash floating around to cover bills. Second, you make tax season a nightmare. If every dollar that comes in immediately gets spent on personal stuff, there's no dollar left when your tax bill comes due. This is the single biggest reason freelancers get blindsided every April or every quarter if you're supposed to be paying quarterly, which we'll get to. Third, and this is the sneaky one, it keeps you in scarcity mode permanently. Even in a great month, you don't feel secure, because there's no structure telling you, this amount is safe to spend, this amount is not. Every dollar feels up for grabs, which means every dollar feels a little bit scary. This is where you set up what I call a profit-first style paycheck system. Here's how it works in practice. Say you bring in $6,000 this month from client work. Instead of letting that $6,000 sit in one account and slowly get spent, you immediately split it the moment it lands. 30% goes straight into a separate taxes savings account. Untouchable, not yours, just sitting there for the IRS. That's $1,800. 5% goes into a business buffer account for slow months and business expenses like software or equipment. That's $300. The remaining 65%, $3,900, is what actually gets transferred to your personal account as your paycheck. That $3,900 is what you're allowed to live on, not the $6,000. This one habit alone, splitting income the second it arrives, is the difference between I have no idea where my money goes and I know exactly what I have, what's safe to spend, and what's already spoken for. It turns a chaotic income stream into something that functions like a real paycheck, even though your actual income is anything but consistent. Quarterly taxes are a rumor to you. You've heard freelancers are supposed to pay the IRS 4 times a year, but you've never actually calculated what you owe or set a single dollar aside. So when tax season rolls around, or worse, when a quarterly deadline sneaks up, you're staring at a number that feels like it materialized out of nowhere. For $1,000, $7,000. Whatever it is, it feels like a punch because you had zero warning it was coming. This one's brutal because it's completely avoidable, and yet it's the single most common source of freelancer financial panic. Employees have taxes taken out automatically before they ever see the money. It's invisible to them. As a freelancer, that entire responsibility falls on you, and if you don't build a system for it, you're essentially spending money that was never actually yours to spend. You just haven't paid it back yet. This creates a specific kind of dread that shows up every single quarter. A background hum of, I probably owe something, I don't know how much, and I'm scared to find out. That dread is completely different from the stress an employee feels, because an employee's tax situation is handled for them. Yours isn't, and pretending it'll sort itself out is exactly what keeps you feeling like you're playing business instead of running one. Remember that 30% we set aside earlier? That's your starting estimate for total tax liability, federal income tax plus self-employment tax, which covers Social Security and Medicare. It's not perfect, it varies based on your total income and deductions, but it is dramatically better than the figure-it-out-later approach. Let's say you earn $60,000 this year as a freelancer. At roughly 30% set aside consistently, that's $18,000 saved by year-end, sitting in your taxes account, untouched, doing nothing but waiting. When your quarterly payment comes due, typically mid-April, mid-June, mid-September, and mid-January, you're not scrambling. You're not selling equipment or dipping into a credit card. You open that account and the money is already there. You pay it and you move on with your day. No spiral. No dread. Just a transaction because you already planned for it. If your income varies a lot month to month, that's fine. The percentage system flexes with you automatically. A slow $2,000 month sets aside $600 for taxes. A big $9,000 month sets aside $2,700. You're never overcommitting beyond what you actually earned, and you're never caught flat-footed either. Ask yourself, do you know your actual profit margin this month? Do you know how much you spent on software, subscriptions, contractor help, or supplies versus how much you brought in? Or do you just have a general vibe, like, business feels good right now, or things feel tight, without a single number backing that feeling up? Most freelancers running their business like a hobby operate entirely on vibes. There's no spreadsheet, no tracking, no monthly check-in, just a gut feeling based on how stressed you are when you check your bank balance. Vibes lie. You can feel like business is booming because 3 big invoices landed in the same week, while completely missing that your expenses have crept up so much that you're barely breaking even. Or you can feel like things are falling apart during a genuinely slow month, when actually your yearly average is completely healthy. You just can't see the full picture because you're not tracking it. This lack of visibility keeps you in a permanent state of low-grade anxiety, because uncertainty is scarier than bad news. A business owner who knows they made $1,400 profit this month can plan around that. A freelancer who just feels weird about money can't plan around anything, they can only worry. You need one simple tracking habit, a monthly income and expense snapshot. It doesn't need to be complicated. At the end of every month, you write down 3 numbers. Total income in, say that's $5,200 this month. Total business expenses out, software, ads, contractor fees, supplies, say that's $800. That leaves you with $4,400 in actual business profit before you even get to taxes or your own pay. Now you compare that to last month. Maybe last month you brought in $6,000, but expenses were $1,900, leaving only $4,100 in profit. Suddenly you can see something your gut never would have told you. This month, even though total income was lower, your business was actually more profitable because you controlled expenses better. That's the power of numbers over vibes. 15 minutes a month, 1 spreadsheet, 3 numbers, and you go from guessing to knowing. Knowing is what lets you make confident decisions, like whether you can afford to raise your rates, hire help, or invest in new equipment instead of making every decision out of fear. Your best month and your worst month are separated by a canyon. One month you bring in $8,500. The next, a client project falls through, a few invoices get delayed, and you're staring at $900. And when that happens, you're not calm, you're in full crisis mode. Bills feel impossible. You start questioning whether freelancing was even a good decision. You might even start underpricing your next project out of desperation, just to get any cash in the door. This is the defining feature of freelance income. It's irregular by nature. That's not a personal failing. That's just the reality of running a service-based business. The problem isn't that your income varies. The problem is that you haven't built anything to absorb the variation. Without a buffer, every single slow month becomes a 5-alarm fire, and that constant firefighting is exhausting. It's also what keeps freelancing feeling unstable and scary, even when your yearly income is genuinely solid. This is exactly what that 5% business buffer account is for, but let's build it out properly. Your target is 1 to 3 months of essential expenses sitting untouched in that buffer account. Say your essential monthly costs, rent, groceries, insurance, minimum business overhead, add up to $3,000. Your buffer goal is somewhere between $3,000 and $9,000. Here's how that plays out with real numbers. You consistently set aside 5% of every payment into that buffer. On a $6,000 month, that's $300. On a $3,000 month, that's $150. It adds up slower than you'd like, sure, but after a year of consistent freelancing, even at modest income, you're realistically looking at $2,000 to $4,000 sitting there. Now picture that same slow $900 month, but this time you've got $3,500 in your buffer. Instead of panic, you calmly transfer $2,100 from your buffer to cover the gap between what you earned and what you need. No crisis. No underpricing your next client out of desperation. No es le blindsided. Just a plan working exactly as designed. That buffer is the single biggest thing standing between freelance income is terrifying, and freelance income is just naturally lumpy, and I've built a system for that. A client pays a $10,000 invoice for a big project. And instead of that money flowing through your system, taxes set aside, buffer topped up, paycheck transferred, and the rest reinvested into your business, it feels like you just won the lottery. You book the trip. You buy the new laptop you've been eyeing. You treat yourself because it feels like free money. It's not free money. It's revenue, and revenue has obligations attached to it before it's yours to spend freely. This is the hobbyist mindset in its purest form, the idea that a big payment is a personal win rather than business income that needs to be processed like every other dollar. When you treat windfalls this way, you're essentially borrowing against your future tax bill and your future stability every single time a big check comes in. It feels amazing in the moment and creates real damage 2 months later when you can't figure out where that money went. It also keeps you from ever building real momentum in your business because instead of reinvesting big payments into things that grow your business, better equipment, outsourcing tasks you hate, marketing, education, the money just evaporates into one-time purchases that don't compound. Every payment, big or small, runs through the exact same split. No exceptions. No, this one's different because it's a big client. On that $10,000 invoice, $3,000 to taxes, $500 to your buffer, and $6,500 to your paycheck. From that $6,500, you decide deliberately what to do with it. Maybe some goes toward a splurge. Sure, you're allowed to enjoy your business, but you're doing it on purpose after the important allocations happen, not by accident because the money just happened to be sitting there. Even better, once your tax account and buffer are healthy, consider carving out a reinvestment percentage for big payments specifically. Say 10% back into things that make your business better. A course, better equipment, a tool that saves you 5 hours a week. That's the difference between a payment that disappears and a payment that compounds into a stronger, more capable business. Let me paint you a quick picture. Think about 2 freelance graphic designers, both earning roughly the same amount, around $65,000 a year. Freelancer A operates exactly like we described at the start. One account, no tax savings, no buffer, no tracking. Every big payment feels like a win, every slow month feels like a disaster. By year 3, despite decent income, they're stressed constantly. They've had 2 scary tax bills they had to put on a credit card, and they're seriously considering giving up freelancing entirely. Not because the work isn't there, but because the financial chaos is unbearable. Freelancer B, same income, same industry, implements exactly what we just covered. Every payment gets split the moment it lands. Taxes are already sitting there when quarterly deadlines hit. A buffer absorbs the inevitable slow months without triggering panic. A 15-minute monthly check-in replaces the guessing game. And big payments get processed like the business revenue they are, not like a lottery ticket. Same income, completely different experience of that income. That's the whole point here. This isn't about earning more. It's about finally treating what you already earn like it belongs to a real business, because it does. Let's bring it all together. The 5 signs you're running your freelance business like a hobby. You don't pay yourself a real paycheck. You have no idea what your tax bill will be until it's already due. You're tracking your numbers by vibes instead of actual figures. You have no buffer, so every slow month becomes a crisis. And you treat big payments like windfalls instead of revenue with obligations attached. Here's the thing, none of these fixes require you to earn more money. They require you to handle the money you're already earning differently. That shift from freelancer just trying to survive month to month to business owner running a real operation is entirely about systems, not income. And once those systems are in place, something changes. The anxiety that used to show up every time a client was late paying, every time a big tax bill loomed, every time a slow month hit, that anxiety starts to quiet down. Not because the irregularity of freelance income goes away. It doesn't. But because you've built something underneath it that can absorb the ups and downs. That's what running your business like a business actually gets you. Not just more money, but more peace. If this hit close to home, do me a favor and hit subscribe. I'm putting out videos every week specifically for freelancers and small business owners who are done feeling financially anxious and ready to actually run this like a business. And I want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me which of these 5 signs hit hardest for you right now. Are you the no buffer, 1 bad month away from panic freelancer? The vibes instead of numbers freelancer? Let me know. I read every comment, and it helps me figure out what to cover next. Speaking of next, in the next video, I'm breaking down exactly how to calculate your specific tax percentage instead of just using that flat 30% estimate, so you can stop oversaving or undersaving and know the real number for your situation. You're not going to want to miss that one. See you there.